Oh, Father, sorry, ma, how are you?
Please let's mute ourselves. Thank you.
Oh, Father, sorry, ma, how are you?
Please let's mute ourselves. Thank you.
Oh, Father, sorry.
All right, everyone. Good. Please, you don't need to comment so that we don't miss messages. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate that you're here. Thank you. Okay. Should have. Please mute yourself. Thank you. All right, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to connect with you all today. Yeah. Thank you for the good evening. Like I said, please, it would be nice if you don't, so that we don't miss messages. So it's okay. Yeah. Thank you for joining. Thank you guys for joining. So we'll just go straight because we don't have a lot of time. And please confirm you can see my screen. I believe you can. I said that
I can see your screen, sir.
Thank you. All right. So I said that we have just 100 people who can join the meeting because of the Zoom subscription we are on. So at any point that we have 100 people, I guess maybe no one will be able to come in again. So at that point, I would kindly request that you join the YouTube. The link has also been posted on Discord. So right there, you can put in your questions if you have any question. The mentors are going to check and then they would revert. So I'm going to answer. Okay, so I believe that a number of people joined today. Thankfully that they didn't miss the mail this time. So if you are just joining, we actually held a pre-LearnCamp session last Friday, and I would kindly implore that you check it out after this session. So you would find it on the Discord channel. I believe for you to be here, I believe for you to be here, you definitely are on Discord. So just for a few minutes, about 2-3 minutes, I'm going to walk us through the Discord because I've been getting a lot of questions and I know that this is like totally new for some of us. So I will just do that and then we'll start today's class proper, okay? So I'm going to drag in my screen here. So if you join Discord, for many of us who are just joining today, of course, these details also you can find on the pre-learn bootcamp that we had last Friday. So we're just showing you, at least for now. So when you join, you would find many of us, all of us will have this event tab. So this is where you would find like the events that the meetings will be holding. So at the moment, this is happening now. And in each of those events, you'll find a link to wherever the meeting is going to hold. In this case, we are holding it on Zoom. So tomorrow's event, you also find it here. So it's not like you would be getting a new link all the time. Just come over to event, you'll find the link there. And then I believe, I don't know if we have these brass channels. So you wouldn't have moderator, it's only like admin access. Then you should have rules. So everyone should have these rules. And then we have this announcement. So I believe announcement, this is where I expect everyone should check. I'm surprised some are still asking some questions which are already answered here. So like the time of the meeting and so on and so forth. So please, if you, after the meeting, please try to check this announcement channel again. You have some important information there about things. So this is where we'll be posting news. So for instance, a couple of minutes ago, I posted that the class is live and that if you cannot join, you can use this YouTube link. So this announcement tab is where you'll be getting information that we believe that you will need at any point in time. And of course, this introduction, several people have been using it very well. So this is like where you introduce yourself. This is not a place to ask questions, just introduce yourself, that's all. So I saw a couple of questions there earlier in the day, but understandable that it's the first time. So this is just for introduction. And then this is LearnCamp resources. So this is where we're posting resources like maybe data that we'll be using. Of course, nothing has been posted apart from this for now. Because what we'll be doing today will not be using like an external data. So we'll be like working on one. So, but as we go along with other courses, we'll be putting data here, or if there's any resource that I think that you would need, this is where you would like really find those resources. And you can't have this one. So this is like a private channel for myself and the mentors that you have. So again, I won't have time. I don't have time now to explain who the mentors are or who the class support are. So I kindly recommend or implore you to check out the video. So this is where we'll have all our videos. So all the sessions will be recorded. Oh my God, I'm not recording this meeting. Okay, it's on YouTube, right? So do I need to record then? Okay, let me just record to cloud. So this is where you find. So this is where you will find all the like videos throughout this camp. So the pre-learn camp that we had on Friday, you can find it here. It's just about maybe 40 something minutes or thereabouts. So please watch to understand more about the schedule, the plan and everything. So you get details. So some of us, you would notice that I have a lot of stuff here like joy, love, faith. Some of us, I mean, all of us will only be in one of them. So maybe you find yourself in joy or in love. You cannot be in two of them at the same time. That's how it has been designed. So each of these private channels represents your classroom. So this is where you ask questions and the mentors are there. So if I click on Joy, for instance, we have the mentors there. The class support are also there. These are the guys that will answer your question if you have any question. So this is where you ask questions if you have concerning this camp. No DMs, just put your question here concerning the course or anything you would like to add. And we recommend that when you ask your questions, you try to tag the mentor. So just use at mentor and at class support, and the guys involved will get a signal that their attention is needed, and they will answer your question, including myself. So that's how that's the plan. For more details, please check out the recording for the LearnCamp that we held on Friday here after the session to understand more about the details. So I will be going straight up to the class today. All right. I'm muted. Oh,
no, you're not.
All right, thank you. So everyone, welcome to today's session. My name is Idris. Once again, it's nice to have you guys here. We talked about why we are having this camp, and all of them you can find in the bootcamp. We talked about it extensively. So today is just business. Of course, we'll be doing Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Power BI, and SQL as well. So we started with Microsoft Excel today. Based on the survey that we had, like from the registration form, we realized a lot of people are already familiar with Microsoft Excel. Although we still have some people who think that their Excel skills is like 1/5, while something is still like 2/5. But among all the skills, Excel seems to be that skill that a lot of people are very familiar with, and that's not surprising because I believe at one point or the other, many of us are students, or we've worked with Excel before. So we'll be going from what I think is basic enough, but then it's not too simple for those who are already. I believe there's always something to learn, right? Even myself, right, preparing the presentation and all of that, there were some things I was learning. So it's always a learning opportunity for everyone. Okay. So what we'll be covering in this Excel class or classes, the series of Excel classes we'll be looking at overview of Microsoft Excel, talking of cells, range, sheets, workbook, and so on. And then we'll look at entering cell values and data in Excel. We'll look at formulas in Excel. We'll look at references. We'll look at functions. And then we'll look at charts. Then we'll look at pivot table. And then we'll have like a sample dashboard. If you watch that video, for those of us who didn't watch or who didn't see that bootcamp, we realized that every week, so at the end of each week, there is always a mini project. So after our session from Monday to Wednesday at the same time, on Saturday between 9 and 11, everyone is expected to do a mini project based on what we learned during the week. Okay, and this is really compulsory for everyone to do. So between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So we're expected to submit before 12. So more details on that by Wednesday for sure. So everything we'll be doing this week, we expect that you practice on it by the end of the week. So just prepare your mind. Of course, if you miss the videos, if you are watching the recorded of this session, please ensure to watch to the end and make sure that you understand everything that's going on. And if you have questions, you can always ask on the Discord. Okay, so what is MS Excel? So again, many of us are familiar with this. So it's like a computer program that uses spreadsheet to help store, manipulate, and analyze data. So Excel is not the only spreadsheet. We have a lot of spreadsheets. We have like Google spreadsheet, Google Sheet. We have Apple has theirs as well. I think different OS have theirs, like Linux, they have theirs, but they all like literally like the same thing. So this means that even if you find a job after this course, a job that has that the requirement is Google Sheet, you are still able to do that job. So because they are all like really the same thing or very similar. So I'm just saying that because they are all spreadsheets. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So why is Excel still relevant? So of course, Excel is a tool that alongside Microsoft Word is a tool that you would find in almost every organization, right? So ranging from be it finance, be it banking, academics, whatever you want to think of, IT, you would find Excel there as a tool because it's very easy to use, and of course we use it in organizing data. We're in a world where data is really getting important day by day. So collecting data, being able to do some calculations and manipulate your data, and also create visualizations also from Excel. Even though it's a bit obsolete, we have more tools or better tools for visualization. But yeah, you will still have companies that still do visualizations in chart. If you happen to join such organization, of course, when you join, you could do with Excel, but after some time, you would definitely want to recommend them to move to other tools for visualization. We'll be seeing that later as we go on, but Excel is still very much relevant. As old as it is, it's still very important. You will find it in almost every organization out there. So overview of Excel. So let's start now. We are going to start with our Excel. So we'll be starting with, these are just simple definitions. So workbook, worksheet, column, rows, cells, and range. Again, I believe many of us have Excel on our computer. So I will just ask you to open. So if you don't know how to open an Excel, let's say for instance, so you just click on your Windows button and then you type Excel, and then you can open your application. So as soon as you open your Excel, you would have this screen here, depending on the version you are using. I learned someone is using like 2013, someone said 2013. So I don't think maybe you might have this kind of screen, but yeah, you are still able to follow with our classes, okay? I'm sorry about all of these things that are here. These are like the previous recent works that I've done. So first thing about Excel is because whatever you plan to do, trust me, a lot of people have done it before. So there are like templates that we have in Excel. So for instance, you want to create something around maybe budgeting, you want to keep your budget. So you can see a lot of templates here, so you can use templates like this, a personal budget you want to record. Don't forget, Excel is used for storing data, right? So you want to like track your budget every month and all of that. So you can actually, there are a lot of templates here that you could use. So but we will not be working with templates, so we'll be starting from scratch. So I'm just showing you that we can have these templates there. So as soon as you launch Excel, you have that option to make use of templates. So, but what we want to click on is blank workbook. So that takes us to the first definition. Who made this sign here from the Zoom? Okay, I wish I knew the person, but it's okay. So workbook. So workbook is the first thing that we will be looking at. So it says the workbook, when you open Excel, a new workbook is created by default. So I consider this like a book, like a normal book that we have, this book. So this is like what we are seeing. And inside of the book, we have like pages, right? So each of those pages, some call it sheets. So the same thing works here. So after you open your workbook, which is your Excel file, you have the possibility of having several sheets or several pages. So at the moment, we have just one sheet. So this is the sheet. This is the name. You can find it here, sheet 1. So if I need more sheets, so I need more pages, I can click on this plus, and then I have more sheets, just like you are opening a book. So I have more sheets, and so on and so forth, right? So those are the two definitions. So for workbook and worksheet. So a workbook can have more than one worksheet, which are individual tabs. And then in your worksheet, the next thing you want to know are the next things you want to know are columns and rows. So I believe we know what rows are, right? Rows are like horizontal and then column vertical. So in Excel, we have row and column. So this is my column. So all of these are like my column. So in Excel, columns are labeled with letters. So you have from A to B to Z, and then it continues from Z to AA, and then AB, AC, and so on. So it's really a long list. So maybe your first, not an assignment, but find out what is like the maximum number of columns that you have. So these things maybe you could be asking in an interview. Maybe we can't say. So, but just find out what is the limit. Is there an end? If there's an end, what is the end? So the same thing for rows. So you also have rows, but they are numbered or they are labeled with numbers. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on too. So find out also what is the limits, because I think you can go up to 1 million, if I'm not mistaken, 1 million plus. So, but find out, so just for your own learning. So those are columns and rows, okay? And then we have the next thing is cell. So cell, as you see here, are individual rectangular boxes where you can enter and manipulate data. And so they represent a unique cell reference, which consists of the column. And so all those things are grammar. I don't deal with grammar, but the point here is that each of these boxes are known as cells. Okay, so when you hear a cell, you are talking of each of these boxes. And to put it more interesting, it's an intersection of a column and a row. So it means that, for instance, when I deal with this particular column, this particular cell, I'm talking of an intersection between this and this. So you can see that where they meet, that's where this cell is. So a cell is an intersection of a row and column. So that takes us to the next thing, which is the range. So range in Excel refers to a group of cells. Now that you know what a cell is, a range is a group of cells. So it means that when I highlight, for instance, This is one cell, this is another cell, this is another cell, this is another cell. So a group of cells together, this is known as a range. Okay, so don't forget those concepts. We are starting from a workbook to worksheet, then to column, rows, and then we talked about cells, and then we talked about range. Okay, so I guess those are really pretty easy stuff. So I don't think there should be any question at this point. So I'll go to the next thing. Okay, so I think there's actually something before this one. So we are still doing an overview of Excel. So what can we do in it? Who is Samuel? Can you stop this thing that you're doing, please? You want to mark? Do you feel like marking? Please stop this slide. All right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is entering cell values and data in Excel. Of course, we talked about Excel being a tool used for storing data or like, entering data and so on and so forth. So how does that work in Excel? So for instance, I want to, I noticed that my weight is probably like, I don't like the way it's going, and I want to start going to the gym, and I feel like I need to track my weight. So I can start like maybe every day of the week or every month. So let's assume every month. So I want to start with January. And then I want to say my weight for January is like maybe no, not to me. So let's say 78 kg. Let's just say 78. Okay. And then your height also. So what am I doing? I'm just trying to enter this data. And how do I do that? For some, I'm doing this for those that don't even have an idea at all. So all you just need to do again is to just click on any cell that you want to enter the value and just type it. Okay. So I'm going to type January. And then if you need to come down, you click on enter. Okay, so when you click on enter, it goes down. If I need to go up again, you click on shift enter. So that takes you up. So I love shortcuts, and it's not just me. You should love shortcuts too, because you don't want to be doing a lot of manual work, right? So as you go on with this, you begin to, I'm not the one who will teach you. I will only show you some, but more practice will really help you to know a lot of shortcuts. Okay, so that's one. You use enter to like come to the next row, and then you use shift enter to go back up. So January, now I come down and I put February, okay, and then like that. So we're actually going to type all of these things. So just bear in mind, some of us have our computer with us. So don't bother trying to do this alongside. Just wait. I will give you some time to do it. So it's going to be a very practical session. So it's not like you are just watching and then going, no, everyone's going to practice. So just watch and see what I'm doing, okay? So March, April, okay? And then I do May, and I do June. So I realized that I've made a mistake for May. So again, I use Control Shift Enter to go back, and I can edit. So either I double click on this to make the change, or I can just make the change at once, right? So just do May, okay, May, June, then you have July. So now, I mean, while I can continue that to the end, let me cancel for July. While I can continue that to the end, Excel is really smart, right? So there are some things that it knows it has been programmed, and you also can program. I hope I have enough time to show you some of the things maybe you can program to Excel to know. So for instance, these are something that it knows. It knows that January, February, March, it knows that you're talking about months, right? So there is something that is called autofill undo. So it's in Excel. So when you hover on a cell or a range, anyone, now you know what a cell, now you know what a range is. At the bottom, you'll find this green. Let me zoom in a bit. I use Control and my scroll to zoom in or zoom out. So if you're using a mouse, so Control and then zoom in and zoom out. So you will find this this guy here, right? So this is called an autofill undo. So when I click on this, no, not this. When I click on this and I bring it down, you will see that Excel automatically fills for July and August. And again, that's because it knows that you are talking about months. So there are some things that work like that. Other things are like, I'm going to show you the next one. So let me show you what I did again, because you are going to try it as well. So I'm just going to highlight everything. So I expect that Excel knows that I'm talking about months. So I come down here to this green button. You can see the moment I go to this, look at the mouse now, we have like a plus, right? So the moment I come here, it changes to like a darker and thinner black line. So I just click on it, hold it down, and drag it forward. So you can see already it's giving you what is going to be there. So this is October, November, December. And then when it gets to December and you continue again, it assumes that you are starting the month again. So you can see starting from January. But I want to stop here in December. So you can see instead of me like really trying to stress myself down, Excel has helped me to complete that. So other things are numbers. So for instance, I want to number this month. So this is like 1, this is like 2, this is like 3. So again, numbers are what Excel can really like understand or recognize. So instead of me having to type 1, 2 to 12, I can just highlight all of these guys now. Again, the same thing. I'm just going to click on this and drag it down to that last place. So you can see it automatically. It's called autofill, right? So autofills everything to like to 12. So as you can see, okay. So now the example I was giving is about weight, right? So now the next thing won't take is weight, right? So but you cannot autofill weight because it's not like nobody knows what your weight will be in January and nobody knows what it's going to be in February. So if you're expecting me to use autofill yet, we cannot. So let's assume in January the weight was 78, and then in February ate a lot of turkeys, and then it's now like 80, and then maybe you notice the weight was reduced, so it's just like maybe 76. Just random numbers. So when you are doing this, just use random numbers, but make sure it's a bit consistent, okay? So let's say it stays at 78, and then let's say 78.3, okay, to show you that you can also insert decimal, all right? So you have like 79.2, and then you have like 78.8. So here you have like 79.1, and then you have like 79. And then you have like 77. I don't know what caused that sudden drop. And then you have like 82 again. And then you have like, let's say 77. Okay. All right. So these are the weights. Okay. So one of the things you will notice here is that while we typed from the top, the spacing here is enough. So January, we can see the whole of January. But when we go to September, because the number of characters are a bit too long, you can see I can't see the R here, right? So what you can do is you can expand the colon, okay? Same thing as the row. So I will show you for the colon. So if you look down here, I can expand this, just increase the width, okay? So just to get more space. So if you need, the same thing you can do for rows as well. So once you hover your mouse, you will see that it's changing. Yeah, more like this is like a ruler now. So it tells you that you can change, you can increase. The same thing for the row, you can actually increase or you can decrease. But for the row, I don't think it makes sense. So let's just leave it for the colon. So I think this is okay. Now we can see everything. So now the next thing is height. So let's just do height, and let's say this is in 181. So not to waste time, I'm just going to do this one. Let's just assume that you are gaining 1 centimeter every month. I know that's not possible, but let's just assume. So now when I drag this down, I'm using that same autofill. So because I did not like, because there was no pattern, it's just one value, right? So it's just 181. So once I use this autofill, Excel does things that I'm trying to copy, because that's also another thing that autofill undo does. So because it's not seeing any pattern, I just said 181, there's no pattern. So it just copies everything. But if I want to let it know that it's a pattern, what I can do is now put 182 here, then select these two and then try to copy down. So now it recognizes that it's a pattern because the first number and the second number increased by 1. Do you get the idea now? So when you just use the autofill for just one value in a cell, it copies. But when you like gives it a pattern, it sees a pattern like, okay, there's an increase by 1, and then you do the autofill, then you can really get what you want. So those are just the 2 use cases that you need to be aware of. So let's leave this like this. Now, while this is looking good, I think if I am to come here and I'm seeing this data, I might not easily recognize like what each column represents. Okay, so I need to like title this. So I'm going to call this month, and then I'm going to call this weight. Okay, now you will notice when I press enter, I'm having to come down, right? So what if I want to go the other way? Because now if I press enter, then I use my mouse again to come here. That's like stressing myself. So why not just go to the other side at once? So to go, I've showed you how to go like down and up. So now to go right, you can use tab. Okay, so tab takes you to the right. And if you want to go back, you use shift tab. Just the opposite of what happened with the other one. So tab to go and then shift tab to return back. So I want to go here now to give this a month. So let me just say index. Let me call this index, okay? And then use tab to go right, tab again to go, and then I call this my weight. And then you go here, and then we call this our height. So please, all these things we are learning, I know it probably looks very simple for some people, but these are some of the things when we start doing like the really tough stuff. I will just be doing this thing, and then I expect that you know what I did. So you won't need to ask, how did I do this? How did I? So please, let's pay attention if you don't really understand this before. Okay, now while this is looking good, can be better because we need to like, how do I know that this is like, I'm talking of the headers, like the header of the column. So that takes us to like maybe formatting, just a bit of formatting. So I want to like bold this guy. Okay, many of us work with Microsoft Excel before. So this area, this tab or this ribbon is very familiar to a lot of us. So I believe you know what bold means, right? So I want to bold this so you can see it's now distinctive that, okay, this is probably like the title, okay? So now you have your weight, you have your height, and then you have all the things that you want. So at this point, let me ask if you have any question so we can continue. Do we have any question? Any question? Okay. All right. So I guess I would move on then. Okay. So now the next thing I want to show you, again, we are still working on entering values and like data and all of that. So sometimes we make mistakes, right? Mistakes happen in life. And let's assume I realized that in February, my record was actually wrong. My weight was actually like 79.2, you know, and I want to make that change. So you can use the delete option. So once you click on that cell that you want to delete, you can just click on delete, okay, on your keyboard, and then you can write the actual value into, okay? So that's one way that you can delete. Another way is to use this option here, which is delete cells. So these are like really, you know, more stressful for me. I love working with keyboards and shortcuts and all of that, but yeah, you can also do it here, but here is where I'm like going to show you how to do that. Another thing is, let's assume that before the, okay, we're just creating a scenario here, right? So I take my records at any point. So sometimes I take it in the first week of the month. Sometimes I take it in the third week, even though that does not make sense, but I'm just creating a scenario here. Sometimes I take it in the fourth week of the month. So I feel like I need to add this in my data so I can know that, okay, maybe the time you are checking from, it's longer than, you get what I mean? So because if you are checking in the first week of January, and then you are checking in the fourth week, so that's like 8 months apart, 8 weeks apart, right? Because it's like the whole of January and then the whole of February. So it's like saying 8 weeks record, right? So you cannot compare it to when you now check for March, the first week of March. So that's like 1 week difference. So, I mean, just want to track week, basically. That's what I'm saying. So, and I would like to add that week here. I don't want to add it here anymore. So what I'm trying to do now is to insert a new column somewhere around here, okay? So to do that, you can just click on this cell, this column, and then right click, and then you'll find insert. So once you click on insert, you can see it creates space for you to insert more values. So now I can put like week. So, and then I can start maybe like week 1, week 2, week 3, and this one is week 4. So let's just assume this is the pattern. So once I do this now, and I bring it down, it's going to give me to 12. But this does not make sense because we don't have 12 weeks in a month, right? So max should be like 5 or 6 weeks in a month. You can't have like 12 weeks. So this is the wrong thing to do. So what I want to do is this same 1 to 4, I want to copy them in all of the remaining cells. So how do you copy in Excel? That's just what I want to show you. You use Ctrl+C. Many of us are already familiar with this shortcut in Microsoft Word. So I Ctrl+C, you can see this. It's showing me that something is going on here. So anytime you copy or you cut, I'm sure you know the difference between copy and cut. Okay, if you don't know, I'm going to show you now. So this is copy. So once you copy or cut, you'll see this guy dancing, tells you that, well, something is being copied on clipboard, and then it needs you to paste somewhere. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to do Ctrl+V to paste. So you can see this is a copy. So that's copy. Copy is going to like replicate what you have. But when you cut, so let me click on Escape to take away that, that guy that is dancing. And then I'm going to copy this again. This I'm going to use Ctrl+X, not Ctrl+C. So because Ctrl+X is for cut, and when I come here and I paste, you can see that the content here disappeared because I did not copy. Okay, so you just need to know these things so that when you're working with stuff. So I want to copy now properly, and then I paste here because I don't want to delete that content, right? So, and I come here, oops, I copied something blank. So I copied this and then I put it here, okay? So just to create a scenario. So that's how you can insert. Also, you can delete, like in case I feel like, this doesn't make sense, I want to delete it. So you can just right click and delete. Okay, so you delete a cell. And then if, and I change my mind again, I think it's okay. So I want to return it back. So you can do like Control Z. So Control Z is to like undo the last step. And these are things that I believe many of us are already familiar with. So just showing us this basic stuff. So you do Control Z to return. And then if you want to change again, like, oh no, I feel like deleting it is actually right. So you can do Control Y. So it goes back to the last step that you took. So Control Z, Control Y, Control Z to go back to the last step, Control Y to go back to that step that you are coming from, this kind of thing. So these are stuff that I feel like we understand. So let me leave it at this point. So we already talked about resizing the column width. So sometimes, in fact, most times when you get data, let's say a very huge data set, more often than not, you would have your column width not the right size. So because there's a default size for all of these columns. So if you are collecting a data that the column names are really, really like long, or the data itself is really, really long. So maybe if some of us that have been working with Excel, you agree with what I'm saying. So sometimes immediately you open a data, you see something like this, right? And then imagine that you have like 24 columns, and then you now begin to do like this for each of those columns. Don't you think it's stressful? Really stressful. While that works, a better way to do it is just click on this, everything. So this top left corner, this top, just click on it. And then just look for any of these cells and then double click on it. So it will automatically expand, it will automatically fit everything. So you don't have to be doing this one by one. I know many of us have probably been doing that one by one. So that's just something I thought to show you. So again, let me do it again. So this is all, you can see like, you can't even see index. Yeah, you can't even see all the months, right? So instead of you to be doing it one by one, you can just like, instead of you to be doing it one by one like this, so you can just do everything at once. Click on this top left, and then any of these cells, just double click on it. Once you have this, your ruler button there, so you can just double click. So it automatically like expands everything. So that's that. The last thing, please. Okay, muted. I hope I'm not muted. Okay, I'm still talking. So the last thing before I allow you to replicate this, for some of us I want to do it, is to find and replace. So this is also another interesting concept that you need to be familiar with, in not just in Excel, not just even in Microsoft Word. I mean, some of us probably take our level to programming and all of that. So you want to know, sometimes how to find a particular value and then you like replace or whatever. So let's say, for instance, in this place now, this might be a bit tricky, but okay, let me do it like this. Okay, I'm going to do it anyhow. So let's assume for these guys now, I don't want to use like 1. I don't want to say like 1 here, week 1. So I want to rather say 1. You got what I'm saying, right? Something like that. So just an example. So what I can do, because instead of me to be changing them one by one, it's okay. You can change them one by one. You can change this to 1. And then you can come here again to change this to 1. So imagine you have like maybe 100 or 200 rows or even 1,000. Are you going to do that? No. So a more efficient way is to do replace. Okay. First, let me show you find. So to find, you can use Control F to find. Okay. So Control F, once you press Control F, there's a way to also go from here, I believe. Maybe when you come under data. But again, I'm not this guy I love shortcuts. So that's what I'll be showing you, because I believe it's more efficient. But yeah, there should be a way to, okay, I think this is it, find and select. So if you click on find here, you can see it's still the same thing. But imagine having to come here, click on 2 things when you can just click on Control F once and for all. So the point is not really like you should be overwhelmed with the formula. But as you practice, don't worry, the formulas will just stick. You just see that they are just there. You just be bringing them anytime you need them. So don't look at it like it's stressful, no. But the more you practice, I really encourage you to practice a lot, in this. And that's why the model we have is for you to do some things, to lay your hands on something. If you don't practice, you will remember them, okay? So either you go there or you do Control F. So Control F now, I want to find 1, okay? So when I click on find next, it's going to find everywhere that there is one. Okay, so you can see all these numbers that have one, is looking for them. Maybe this example does not make sense. So let me look for January. So let me do Control F again and look for January. Okay, so in all of this, I'm going to find January. So you can see it automatically finds January. So when I click next, it's not finding any other January. So this is the only January it finds. Okay, so now that's Control F, find. The other guy. So if you check find, you will see beside it you have replace. Okay, so that's the other guy that you need, that I know that you need a lot. So to go to the other guy, instead of coming through Control F and then click on this, you can go directly to it by pressing Control H. H for hotel. Eh? So this is also another way to come to this place. So now, please mute yourself. Thank you. So you can see the prompt. It's saying find what. So what are you looking for? Let's assume I'm looking for January. And then it's saying that replace. So you want to replace January with Jan. Just an example. Okay. Replace January with Jan. So I can click on replace. So when I click on replace, you can see that my January here has become like Jan. Okay, this is a very useful tool when you are doing something like replacing missing value. So for example, this is the last example I will show you, and then I will allow you to practice. So for example, I know that I have some blanks in my data. Okay, and there are several ways you could deal with blanks in your data, but one of them is that I want to replace these blanks with, I will just type not found or not available, something like that. So I can use that Control H. So what am I finding? I will just leave it as blank. Okay, nothing, because I'm finding anywhere that is nothing, and then I'm going to replace it with not available. Okay, so when I click on replace, you can see it only replaced for one. Okay. You can see it only replaced for one. Okay, so once I click on replace, and if I click on replace again, it replaced for the other one. But let's assume we have like 200 blanks. Will I be doing replace one by one? No. So when I do that step again, instead of using replace, I can use replace all. So it's just going to do everything at once, even if they are 100 or 200. Okay, so you can see it said all done. We made 2 replacements. So because it found 2 blanks, two data where there is nothing, and then it replaced them with not available. I hope you get the concept, right? So just play around there. But right now, what I want you to do, for those of us that don't have any experience with like some of these things, so just try to type in this data. Don't try to use those shortcuts I showed you to move down, enter, to go back up, shift, enter, and then to like go right, tab, to go back to left, shift, tab, and then try to do Control H, Control F as well. So I will give us like 7 minutes to do that. So just practice. Then once it's 50, in my time 8:50, then we'll return. Then we'll continue with formulas. Okay, so please practice if you have your computer with you, and if you have any other question at this point, please ask. So 7 minutes, I'll be back. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you. I hope we had some time to practice that. Please, in case you did not complete, I implore you to please do that later, just to be familiar with how to enter your data in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you quickly before we look at welcome back. Sorry, pardon my manners. Welcome back. Yeah. Okay. So the one thing I want to show you under still entering, and then we'll move to formulas based on what I have here. You can actually move values, cells. You can move them from one place to another. You can also move like even range. So what I mean by that is, for instance, I want to move these guys, this particular guy, this cell. So you would see that at different times, this mouse is behaving differently. So right now you can see the way the plus is. Now when I move it at the border of the cell, you can see how it changed. Now when I move it to this place, of course you're already familiar with this, like the autofill handle. So for this place, this is where you can move. So you can see the arrow direction up, down, left. So I can actually click on it and hold it down and then move it to a different place, right? So this is also how you can move. And not just a particular cell, you can move range. The same thing applies. So once you find that arrow, that direction, so you know that you can move to any place you want. So those are the things that you need to know about entering your values. So the next thing we'll be looking at now is we'll be looking at formulas. Okay. So who's requesting to record? Don't worry, I'm already recording it. It's okay. Don't need to request to record it. I'm recording. Don't worry, I will send the link once I'm done. So formulas. So formulas, the next concept that you need to learn is an expression that operates on values in a range of cells, just as you can see the definition. So it's something we're already familiar with, right? So we all did math, I strongly believe. So we know what it means to add numbers together. That's addition, subtraction, subtraction, I don't know, whatever. Multiplication, and then division, right? So the same thing you can actually do. In fact, Excel is like a calculator, you know. So for some of us, probably in sciences back then, when we do practicals and we take records, we use Excel for calculation, you know, before we started using for other things. So let's just see how we can use Excel as a tool for formulas or writing formulas in Excel. Now, based on this data that we have collected, one thing that I think we can get from here is the weight, what's it called now? What's the name of this guy? Body mass index, right? BMI. So I don't know if you know what BMI is, you can Google it, but it's not, it has nothing to do with Excel. It's just when you have your weight, you have your height, and then you can do your weight divided by your height, then you can get like your body mass, your weight, your body mass index. So let's call this column BMI. Okay. All right. So you can see that even though there was no point that we specifically selected bold for this particular cell, Excel is able to recognize by itself that everything here should be bold. That's how smart it is, right? So because you can see that I just typed BMI, I did not, it was the one that bolded itself. But one interesting thing is if I put the BMI here, also it's working. That's great. Did I select all of this too? Maybe when I did it, I selected all of this. But yeah, it's smart enough to recognize that everything here should be bold as the column. Okay. So the formula for BMI is, you can check online, Google. BMI is basically weight divided by height. Okay. So weight divided by height. That's the formula for BMI. And so what we want to do now is to write that formula out. So it means that for month January now, the BMI should be this value divided by this one, right? You agree, right? So let's go. So I'm just going to do equals to, and then I'm going to type 78 divided by. So this is how you do division in Excel formulas. So this slash division. Okay. So 181. And then you have your answer, which is 0.4309. So 09 and so on. So the same thing here is going to be 79.2 divided by 182. And then you also have your answer, which is pretty much good, right? Okay, so you want to continue like that, but trust me, if you have like, let's say 100 records, even let's keep it simple, 100 records, you agree that this would be a stressful thing to do, having to like manually like type all of them. It's going to work, but after some time, it's not about what you are doing working. It's about how much time. It's about like the efficiency. It's about the time it takes. So at this stage, you can afford to do some really long manual tasks. But as you go on, when you begin to work with a large number of data set, where you have like thousands and millions of rows, you cannot afford to do manual things like this. Okay, so you would see me show you one manual way, and then you see me show you the other way where you can like really speed up things. Okay, so while this is correct, it is not efficient. So I'm going to delete it. By now, you know how to delete. So I already showed you that. So instead of like manually selecting them one by one, I mean writing the values one by one thing I can do is reference that cell. We talked about cell referencing, right? So, and we know that cell referencing is an intersection of the row and column. Do you remember? Okay, if you don't remember, I know I did not elaborate on that. So it's maybe time to elaborate on that. So this 78, you agree with me that it's an intersection of this cell, this column, which is D, and row 2. Okay, so the way you reference cell is the column comes first and then the row goes next. So it means that if I want to reference this, it's going to be D2. So you can see, sorry, I forgot to tell you that whenever you want to start writing formulas, you need to start with equals to. Okay, so please, I forgot to mention that. So anytime you want to start writing formulas, you need to start with equal to. So you are telling Excel that you're about to write a formula or a function. We'll go to function very soon. Okay, so now equals to D2. So you can see the moment I do that, it automatically brings like the bar. So for me to be sure that, yeah, this is what I actually wanted, D2, and then divided by. So the same thing, instead of like having to write 181, I can reference this cell. Okay. Now the reference for this cell is what? You guessed right. E2, right? So which is E, and then where they meet, E2. Okay. So once I do that and I press enter, you see that we still got the same value. And then you can do for the next one as well. So the reference is going to be what? D3. So now sometimes you might say, oh, will I have to be looking at it? Where is it? D2? Yeah, I know. That looks stressful, So you can also select the value. So Excel automatically, because you have started with the formula. If you didn't start with the formula, like with equals to, and you just select, nothing is happening. Even if you double click here and you click here, nothing is going to happen. But once you start with the formula, Excel knows that. Once you start with equals to, Excel knows that you are dealing with the formula and it knows what to do. So once I click here, it automatically selects it for me. So I don't have to be straining my eyes and looking what is D2 this thing. So divided by the same thing for this one, I can select it, and then you have your answer. So the same thing here, I'm going to continue, and then do this. Yeah. So this seems like a more improved method than what I first did, right? Yeah, I see some argument about the formula of DMI. Yeah, I actually saw it. We'll come back to that. Whether it's squared or not, don't worry. We'll come back. This is just practice. Just understand the concepts, okay? Thank you. All right. So you would notice that this seemed better than the first one that I did. However, this can also be improved because of the functionalities that comes with Microsoft Excel. It's really a good tool. So instead of me to be doing this one by one, because again, if it's 200, I have to be like typing all of these things and dividing till I get to like 200, which is not really, it does not make sense, right? It can be better than that. So again, I'm going to delete this last two. And then because of how smart Excel is, okay? We talked about the autofill earlier. We talked about how it can automatically recognize and then bring down. So when you use this tool, it's still part of autofilling. It can either copy, it can either do incremental. So we showed for incremental earlier when it was increasing the number like from 1 to 3. In this case, it can copy the formula and modify it to work here. So what I mean is this. If I copy this formula here from here by dragging this thing down, what Excel will do is that it will look at what is going on here in this row. What I did was I divided this by this, right? So once I bring this answer down, Excel will do the same thing here. So it's going to divide this by this. And then when I bring it here again, it's going to divide this by this. Are you getting it? So let's see. So again, look at what I have in my formula. It is D2 divided by E2. So once I drag this down like this, Excel, and I click on this, you can see that Excel automatically drags also the formula down. So it brings it down, this one, and I have this. Again, for this one, it brings it down, and I have this. Do you get it now? So if I drag this again further, it will do the same thing. This, and this down. Do you get the idea? So that's the simplicity with Excel, understanding the referencing and being able to autofill. Okay. Now, again, this looks it looks good, right? It's like it's better than everything that we've done, but this can also be improved, because if you have 200 and then you're having to like do this to 200, it's I mean, it can be better than that. So I'm going to delete all of these guys and show you the last thing that you can do. So since you want this pattern to be consistent till the end, okay, all you need to do is this same place, this same autofill handle, just double click on it. So once you double click on it, Excel will automatically fill this formula or whatever you have here till the end of that data. Do you get it? So it's going to fill to the end, just as you can see. So even if you have 1,000, it's going to fill till the end of 1,000. If you have 1 million, it's going to fill to the end of 1 million. So you don't have to be like either writing your formula manually or trying to drag down by yourself. Just double click on it. Again, let me show you. Just undo it. And then right here, when you have this autofill handle, just double click on it. And then, so when you check the formula, like for the last one, you'll see that it's exactly what we want, which is this divided by this. Okay. And then you have the value. Okay. So that is how you can use the cell reference alongside the formulas in Microsoft Excel. So this is division. So you can also do multiplication. Okay. So for instance, I can see some comments in the chat. Yeah. So they said BMI is actually weight divided by the square of the height. So the doctors in the house, or if that's what I'm going to call them, so they said it's height squared. So it means that this height has to be multiplied by itself. You know squared, right? Squared, if you say 2 squared, that's 2 multiplied by 2. If you say 3 squared, that's 3 multiplied by 3. So let me show you how to do square in Excel, and then we are going to slot it in our formula. So for instance, if I have 3 and I want to multiply it by itself, of course it's 3 by 3, which is, who can tell me what's wrong now? Can anyone guess why this did not work? Anyone? Just put it on the chat if you think you know why this did not work. No equals to, good. Thank you. So I did not add equals to, so it's supposed to be a formula, right? So I need to add equals to. So this is how you do multiplication in Excel with the star. Okay, that's star. You can find it in 8 key, depending on your keyboard, but 3 times 3, that's 9. Okay, and then you can also do like 4 times 4. Okay, oops, sorry, I keep forgetting the equals to. Okay, so 16. So other ways is you can actually do 3, and then you can find this button, this key in where is it now? 6. I have it on 6. So shift 6, this button. Okay, this key. So this key 2. So it means raised to power. That's the meaning in Excel. Okay, so this is also another way. So this is better because you can also do it for raised to power 3, raised to power 4. For instance, 3 raised to power, okay, caret is the name, thank you. So 3 raised to power 3 now should be 27. So if I do 3 raised to power 3 is 27. So instead of doing 3 times 3 times 3, you know, it's still 27. But this is better because if you have times maybe 3 raised to power 7 now, you just do 3 instead of doing 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times. This is really stressful. So you can use either of the method. But based on what I said now, you will agree with me that this is a better method, right, for doing anything power. So we want to do height raised to power 2 because according to them, this is the formula. BMI. Yeah, you guys should check on Google. So if you want to be sure, those who checked or those who know already know. So this should be, this BMI should be weight divided by the square of this height. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to square this guy. So what I want to do, I'm not going to delete this. I will just insert a new, now you already know how to do that, right? So I'm going to add a new column here that's going to be like height square. Oh, okay, yeah. I see another thing you are saying. I will come back. We will apply everything you are saying in the chat. Don't worry. It will help us to learn even more. We will do a lot of things. Thank you. So I'm going to insert a new cell here. Okay, so you can see nothing happened because the formula, the cell is still referenced correctly. And then I'm going to name this height squared. Let me just call it I squared. Okay. Again, we can't see the squared, so you can just double click on this to expand this, right? So the height squared is, the formula is this raised to power 2, right? And then you have this. And then you can do the same thing, but by now you should know that that's not good enough, right? So you can just double click on this, and then the formula will be replicated down to the end. Okay, you already know all this now, I believe. Okay, so another thing that someone is saying is that the height should be in meters. So this is actually in centimeter. So it should be in meter. So that's like, we have to divide by, is it 1,000 or 100? 100. We have to divide by 100 to convert it to meters. So these are more like, lost conversion. So we know that we need this value now to be in meter. So again, I want to stress us. So I'm going to add another. Someone said, can you calm down? Don't worry, they are helping us to learn better. Yeah, I know it's just an example, but I think it's good because we are now implementing a lot of things that we need to add. So this height now, let's just indicate that this height now is in centimeter, okay? And then we will create another height that will be in what? In meter. Oops, sorry. So this height will be in meter. Again, you can see the space, so I'm just having to double click on this to expand it. And then this weight, let's specify that it is in kg. Okay. All right. So now to get the height in meter, is just this divided by 100, right? So very simple. So I'm just going to do this divided by 100, okay? And I have 1.1. So am I going to do it now? You can see while we are repeating the same thing. So that's it. When you practice, you just master them. So because most times you will just be doing the same thing in a different scenario. So now what we want to do again is this height squared. So we'll not use this height again, right? So this is the height we need to square, right? Because this is the meter. We need to square this height. So let me write meter squared here. Meter squared. So we know that this is the height meter. So now there are two ways to do this based on what we have here. I can decide to, cancel all of these things now and then do this raised to power 2. Okay, it's going to work. But what I want to show you is instead of canceling it, you can actually move your references. That's what I want to show you now. So now you know that your E2 here, it should be F2. So you can, first thing, you can change it to F2 manually if you want. You can see it automatically changes. Or you can also move your reference. Can you see? So you can see as I'm moving it, it's changing in the formula. So I'm showing you this because when we start doing things that are a bit more a lot, you will not want to be doing manual stuff. So we want to really make things fast. So I'm showing you this now so you can know the possibilities around this. So I'm dragging to this place. So you can see now it's F2 raised to power 2. And then we have our formula here. You can see it's only this one that changed. So, and then I'm just going to double click on this. And then you can see that we have all our values now in centimeter squared. So now we can go back to our BMI, which should be now, our BMI should be weight, this one divided by this one, right? Okay. So now when I click on this, based on what I showed you now, instead of you canceling this, you can just shift, because this one is correct, 78, which is D2. It is this E2 that needs to change to G2. So I can either change it here or just move this value, because you can see that the E2 is the one in red and then the D2 is the one in blue. Okay, so this is the one I want to move, so I can move it to this place. Okay, and then I click on enter and then I double click. So you can see all my BMIs for for this thing. So based on that. So far we've been able to work with division and also squared, So the same thing with multiplication if you want. And also we've seen how cell references can change and they can be moved about. Okay. So one last thing, one more thing I want to show you here is whenever you're working on a data, best practice is that when you have your original data, so based on what I know, we had this, and then maybe this originally in our data. So these guys here, especially this one and this one, they were actually computed, right? So best practice is that whenever you are computing a value, or you're computing a range or whatever, or a part of a data, you try to distinct it from the original value. So again, these are some of the things we'll do when we start working with a larger data set. Because when you have a large data set with like several columns, and then you want to be able to let them know that, okay, this particular column was created by us. It's not in the original data set, okay? So that in case there's a mistake, they can always like go back and all of that. So what I like to do, and I believe is best practice, we can give these two cells that we computed a different color, okay? So I'm just trying to show you a bit of formatting anyway. So I'm going to just click on this cell, these two cells, and then I can come to this either font color. Font color is the font itself. You can see it changes the font, but this is not what I want. So I want the background. So this is the one I will use. So I choose yellow. So you can choose any color that you want, just to show that these two were actually computed. I'm just showing you around these things. It's just for example. We'll see the original use case. But you can see this thing went to the down. And the reason is because I selected this at the G. So when you select a column, you can see it's referenced to the end. The end. I wish I could show you where the end is. Should I show you where the end is? Okay, I will show you later when we talk about that shortcut. I don't want to overwhelm you. So what I can do here is to probably just highlight these guys and then give them color differently. Let me give you this one. So you can see instead of going to the end and then it's just ending here. So I know when I look at this data now, I know that these two were not originally in the data, okay? So two things I wanted to show you with this is just to show you how to format and also to show you one of the best practices that we'll be definitely doing later in the course, okay? All right, so now let's now create another scenario to apply subtraction. So let's assume that after this whole month, I realized that the weight I was using, the weight scale I was using, maybe there's a fish inside. Don't ask me how fish got into it, but it's an assumption. So you found out that there's a fish inside. So of course the fish has been adding to your weight. So the fish is inside of the scale. So when you sit on it, so when you are actually like 3 kg, 78 kg, your original weight is actually like 75. So because of the fish weight, which is 3 kg, is adding to the weight, right? So it means that I need to recompute this, right? So it means I need to subtract 3 from all of these values because all of these values are wrong. I need to take 3 out of them. Okay, so there are several ways to do that. So let me show you what you can do. So number one is to, again, add a new cell here. So you could add a new colon here and name it, give it a name. So you can say real weight. Okay. All right. So real weight. So this is the real weight. This is the fake one. Again, I'll give it a color so that I will know that this was actually computed by me. Okay. It's not in the original data. So I'm just going to say equals to this minus 3, right? And then we have 75. Okay. And I can do this down, and then I can be sure that all these are like my original weight. Okay. So this is one method. This is one method of doing it. It's a bit, who are people doing all these things on the screen? Okay, so this is one method, but this is not what I want to show you. I want us to play around the cell reference. That's actually my aim here. So I'm going to cancel this step. I'm not going to use this method of writing 3 because 3 is a bit static. So let's assume that, again, later you realize that the weight of that fish is actually not 3, it's actually like 7, and you need to change it. So this is a case of having to change something all over. So will you come to the formula and be replacing it all the time? No. So what I want to do here is I will just create something here and call it error. Okay. So the error could be anything. It could be the weight of the fish. It could be the weight. Maybe after you found fish, you found rat again. So, but let's just leave it like that. So for now, let's say our error is 3. Okay. So that means what we need to subtract from the original weight. So what I'm going to do is, instead of saying D2 minus 3 to be static, because anytime I need to change 3 to maybe 7, maybe I realize it's not 3, 7, I need to come here again and change for everything. And that's a bit rigid. It can be better, even though it works. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing 3, I'm going to do 78 minus this. So I'm going to reference this cell because this cell is actually 3. Do you get it now? And I click on enter. So it means that anytime I realize that this error is actually not 3, but 7, the moment I change it to 7, it's going to update in the data here. Okay, don't mind my scenario. I know my scenario sounds really out of place, but this is how this works. So you can easily change this here. You might be wondering, then what's not the difference if we are changing and we can also change here? So the difference is this: when I bring it down, it will automatically change for everything. Do you get the idea now? Because if I leave it as 3, for instance, minus 3, and I drag it down, and then I realize that it's no longer 3, I need to change this one out to like 10, and then I need to also drag down again. So you can see the steps now, 2 steps. But if I use this method, I can just change it once, and then it's going to change for everything. So let me show you. But there will be a problem, and I hope you are going to get what the problem is. So when I click on this, and I press enter, now when I drag down, look at this, everyone, please pay attention here. When I drag this down, you would realize that this changed. This gave us the value, right? Because 78 minus 10 is 68. But 79.2 minus 10 is not 79.2. It's still 79.2. Every other thing did not change. What is going on? So that brings us to what we have in our topic. Next topic after formulas. References. Okay. So someone said $sign. Yeah. Okay. So references are very important in Excel because, as you know, each of those cells, you identify them with a reference like C1, C2, and so on and so on. So we have 3 types of referencing in Excel. So the first one is relative cell reference. It said that a relative cell reference adjusts its position based on where the formula is copied or filled. So all we have been doing since, what made Excel recognize that it needs to copy the formula for I squared down is relative. So it checks here, it sees the formula you applied, it just applies it downward like that. That's relative referencing. So everything we have been doing so far is relative referencing. And then we have the second one, which is absolute referencing. Now, before I show you what that is, let's see what the problem is in our formula here. Now, if I click on this guy, you see that the formula is actually 78 minus this D2, 78 minus K2, which is 10, which is correct. But when you check the second formula, you realize that this is correct, D3, but the reference for K has also changed to K3, and there's nothing in K3. So that's why we're getting the same thing. If we check for this one now, it is now D4 minus K4. It's moving down relative, right? Which is what it did the first time. We were happy with it. But now it's not giving us what we want. Are you getting the point now? So it means that there is a need to change this referencing. And that's where we have absolute reference. So absolute reference, as you can see here, it says that it's a reference that remains fixed and does not change when the formula is copied or filled. You can't see the screen? You can't see the screen? Okay, someone said can't see the screen. I don't know what she means by that. Oh, maybe it's small. Sorry, because I have to probably put it on slideshow. Okay, sorry. So an absolute cell reference remains fixed and does not change when the formula is copied or filled. So in this place, what we actually want is an absolute reference, because we don't expect this guy to change, because this guy should be constant, right? We want to subtract everything. We want to subtract this value from everything. So we expect that even when we come here, it should still be D3, which is 79.2 minus this same value. We don't want it to move the way Excel, by default, Excel does relative reference, but we don't want that. So we want it to be fixed. So what do? So we choose the absolute reference option. And how do we do the absolute reference? Very simple. So to tell Excel that this particular cell that I want to reference, I want it to be absolute, all you need to do is to add the $sign, just like someone said on the chat. So you add the $sign to the row, to the column, and then you add the $sign to the row. You know, don't forget the K, the letter is the colon reference, and then the row is the what? Is the two, the number is the row reference, okay? Right. So once you do this, you are telling Excel that this K2, make it fixed. I don't want it to change. I want it to be permanent, okay? So once I click on enter, and then I drag this formula down, you will see that we have the right change. Can you see? So once I click on this now, you will see that my reference is still fixed to this one. When I click here, it's still fixed to this one. When I click here, it's still fixed to this one. When I click here, it's still fixed to this one. Do you get it now? So that is what you mean by absolute reference, okay? So another method of doing it, instead of manually typing, so let me undo it. So instead of manually typing $sign, you can type, once you click on that, what you want to reference, what you want to change, this K2, just look for F4 on your keyboard. If you are using a Mac, it will be different, probably Shift, or if you are using maybe Dell, you might have to use a function key. So just know how you use your function on your keyboard. So all you need is F4. Okay, so if you press F4, you will see that it has done the same thing that I wanted you to do, or that I could have done by, by now you should know I love using shortcuts. So I definitely recommend this method instead of having to type $ manually. So this also works. And when I click enter, I can drag this down, and then you see that everything will be updated. Okay. Now, to understand what I was initially saying, if I change this one to 20, you see that it automatically changes for everything. I don't have to come here again and drag down. Do you see the difference now between writing it as 10 in the formula and then using a kind of reference here? So if I change this anytime, it's going to update everything. That's how that works. Any question? I know that's probably a lot, but I hope that you understand what we did. So if you have any question, I will just take question for about 2 or 3 minutes based on what we've done. You can put it on the chat. Mentors, please, if there's any question on the Discord or from YouTube, please, you can draw my attention. If not, we can just continue. Any question? Okay, let me see. Please explain the SF4 again. Okay. All right. I would explain that. So any other question before I take that one? Okay. No other question. So I believe that you understand using the $sign, right? Probably manually putting the $sign by yourself. So again, let me explain. I know it's a concept that a lot of people find very difficult to understand. So I would explain again. So we talked about the fact that when we apply this formula like this and we drag this down, it was only this one that worked because we are expecting 78 minus 10 to give us 68. We expected 79.2 minus 10 to give us 69.2, definitely not 79.2. So there is a problem. So when you check, you see that the reference for the first weight is correct, but the reference for the error is changing. You can see it's moving down, which is relative. which is similar to everything that has been happening before. It's just that this time we don't want it to happen this way. So I mentioned that takes us to the second type of referencing, which is known as absolute reference. And absolute means that you are holding everything down. Okay, you don't want it to change. All right. So how do you now do that? You don't want this reference to change. So that's when you use the $sign, the absolute reference. So I showed you the first way of doing it. You can manually add $ yourself to the row and to the column, because K represents row, the letters, right? These are the columns, columns. And then the numbers represent the rows. So I'm locking it. I don't want A to change. I don't want 2 to change. I want it to be stick to this value that you have here. So once I do that, I have nothing is going to change here. But when I drag it down, you see that I have the result as I should have them, which is 77 minus 67. It should give us minus 10 should give us 67. Because when you check, you see that this reference has not changed. It's still on 10, unlike before that it had moved down. So that's what absolute reference means. And I said that instead of also the second method of applying the reference, instead of manually typing the $sign like we did, you can actually use the F4 button. Okay, so once you click on F4 on your keyboard, it will do the same thing of manually typing $, yourself. So this is just a more efficient way instead of having to type $2 times, and then you drag it down and you have the same thing. So I hope that answers your question for F4. Okay, so there's one more question. It said, what will happen if you only reference the column that is K and leave the number? All right, so thank you for that question. That is going to take us to the next thing that we have, which is the mixed reference. Okay, some call it partial reference, we call it mixed reference. So what this means is, as you can see, it's a combination of relative and absolute. So you are trying to combine both of them together. So you can see here that you can lock either the column or the row. So you can choose to lock the column or the row. I will not be giving you an example here in this class because it's a concept that based on history or based on it's really very, so what I would do is probably the first thing we'll start with tomorrow, because now I know that maybe we're already getting near to our saturation point. So it would be a really bad idea to take it at this point. So we'll probably start it tomorrow. That's the absolute, the mixed reference. So you understand how it works. But yes, if you're asking about the possibility, that's also very possible that you can choose to lock the column and leave the row, or leave the row and lock the column. Okay. So tomorrow we'll talk about that in details. I can assure you. God spare our lives. All right. So those are the two references that we'll talk about today. The next thing I want us to talk about is what we call before we look at formulas, is what we call the name box. So the use case for it might not be so obvious now. Probably when we start doing functions and all of those things, you will see the use case for it. But what I want to say is that you can actually name a particular column or a cell, anything, you can name it in Excel. So what I mean is this. For instance, this BMI, or let me use this height. Let me use this height that we computed. Okay, let me use this height that we computed. So if I select all of this height, as you can see now, just click on just one of them and then use your mouse to drag down. If you check this place, you would see that there is a name here. Okay. And then I can change this name to height. Okay. So it means that anytime this reference is selected, the name will be height. So if I need to call all of these guys now, I can use this name. Okay, maybe you don't understand that. Let's do it for only one cell. So this cell that we call error, let's name it. So instead of leaving it as K2, let's name it as error. Okay, so again, just click on, I did the example for already now I'm doing for cell. So just click on the cell and then come over here. Can you see name box? You can see the name box. And then just select what you have there and then rename it to error. Okay, and then click on enter. So it means that you can use that name in place of the formula. Oh, what am I talking about? Let's see. So if I click on this formula that we did now, can you see it? Instead of using K2, I can actually type error. Can you see? So you can see that Excel already recognizes something because I already named it error. Can you see? So once I use this error now, you can see that it has selected this value here. Do you get the idea now? So this is very useful when you are dealing with a large number of data sets and then you have different names. It helps you when you're writing a lot of formulas, especially when you have your table in a different sheet and you need to reference them. So instead of you to be, some of us probably work with Excel, you understand what I'm saying? So instead of you to be referencing a table and then selecting from another table and then you have a long name, I will show you when we start dealing with larger set. This is a very good method. So you can just type the name and then you can call it. And of course, once you click on enter, you can just drag it down and you see it's in now. Because you have referenced it, you don't need to lock it. Do you get it now? Because it's a name, you have put the name there. So now you don't need to lock it again. That's also another advantage of using a name range. Do you get the idea now? Because what is seen here is error. It's a name that you have applied, and this is the only cell that bears that name. So you don't even need to lock, it won't even accept. If you try to do F4, nothing will happen. And if you put dollar yourself, I'm sure it's going to give you an error by the time you can see. So it recognizes the name, and then it knows that anytime it sees that name, because if you check all throughout the formula, it's still that error that is there. Nothing is changing. It's not like it's going to move down. No, because you use the name. So that's also another way of using name box to implement your reference in Excel. Okay, I think I have a question now. Someone said name ranges. Okay, so we can use Ctrl+Shift+F3 to do that too. Yeah, thank you for that. I never knew, but someone said you can use Ctrl+Shift+F3 to do that. I don't know of that shortcut, so thank you for showing us that shortcut. I don't know if I can implement it now. So maybe you guys should practice that on your end, maybe when you are doing it. So I will just pass. But thank you for that. Okay. So at this point, let's take questions. I want to know if you have any question. If you don't, maybe you can just put on the chat that no question. Once I get like 3 or 4 people say no question, then I will continue. But if you have question, please ask. Please ask. It's meant to be a practical session. Or let me give time for us to play around this. Yeah. Okay, so let me give time. So let me give like 10 minutes again. And then we'll come for the final, maybe 20 minutes. I guess will it be 20 minutes that way? Yeah, I think 20 minutes. So let's take 8-10 minutes. You can take a break if you want, or practice what we've done so far. Just try to create some of them. Try to see if it works on your end. Try to experiment with the F4 and all of that. And then we'll be back after 10 minutes. Thank you so much.
think about. And you know,
All right. Thank you, guys. I hope we are here. I don't know how many of us saw what I did, but I think the time was taking too long, so I just fast forwarded. I forwarded it by 1 minute, so because I wanted this to meet them, just round up on time. Okay. So yeah, I have one question from the chat. Welcome back. So let's just round up these last 20 minutes. I have one question from the chat, so I'm going to start with that. She asked that she's trying to change the error back to K2. Okay, so means that this naming here, she's trying to change it back to K2. And I don't know if you do K2 if it's going to work. It's not working, as you can see. So that's good, because it's nice to see that someone is trying that. So I encourage us to experiment like that, play around things, break it, and then try to correct it. Kindly close your video, is distracting the class. Oh, sorry about that. All right, I hope it's better now. Yeah, sorry about my video. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, she already solved it. That's impressive. Okay, it's not me. Okay, let me put it on back. So she already answered that question, and that's even more impressive because again, when you are working generally, Google is your friend, right? Google is your friend. You need to learn to work with Google. It's mandatory. You can't know everything, so always know that Google is there to help you. And now we even have a more sophisticated tool in ChatGPT, so really even helps more. So next time, maybe she did or not, I don't know. But if you have this kind of queries, you can always check online. Just go to Google. How do I change a named box or a name reference to a cell reference back? You would find the solution. So, but yeah, she found it, but I'm just going to show us. So in case I want to change this from error now to back, so you can come over to Formula. So from your home tab, you'll come to Formula. I know we've not done anything here, and we might not do anything until we finish this Excel code, but that's how big and huge Excel is. Even personally, I've not done a lot of things here. It's just usually the same thing over and over again. But if you are, for instance, working around finance and we might have some things, or maybe academics, you might want to use some of the tricks and all of these things here. Moreover, there are other tools that can also do some of these things. So you necessarily might not do them in Excel. You can do them in other tools. So formulas, and then you will find name manager. So this actually, if you read the shortcut is Control F3. Okay, so next time you can also use that. So this is where you find all the names. So whether it's a range, whether it's a cell, whatever. So this is where you find them. So when you click on name manager, you see that these are the two that we have so far. I created one for height. Do you remember? The one for the total height, the height, then the range. That was the first one I created. And then this is the one for error. This is the cell value. So you can actually just right click on this, or okay, right click is not working. So you can just delete it. Okay. Also, you can edit. So let's say you want to change the reference. I don't want it to be K2 anymore. I want it to be probably this. You can also change that here, but I'm not doing that. I just want to delete. So once I delete, click on OK, and then close. You can now see that your cell is no longer referenced as error, but referenced as K2. And then you will see that in your formula, we have errors now, right? Because it no longer recognizes what error is. You get the idea now. So we have a named error. So it's saying that this issue with the name, okay, there are different types of errors that you'll come across in Excel. We have div, we have NA, we have a lot of errors, okay? So please check out, maybe if you want, you could check, but you will experience different kind of errors in Excel, and you should get used to it. And not just Excel, any tool. The issue is not, the problem is not even the error itself. The problem is knowing how to troubleshoot the error, okay? So from here now, I know that's issue with the naming. So two things, is either I rename this back to error, or I use my previous reference. So let me just stick with the previous reference, and let's lock it, as you know, F4. And then I'm just going to drag it down, and then we have the same thing. So if you want, you could stick with this one. That also works. Okay. All right. So the last thing, that's all. So then the last thing we'll be rounding up with today Let me say I'll be leaving us with today. Like I said, I'll come back to this mix tomorrow. It's not a good time to talk about it. I'll start with it tomorrow. So let's see functions. Functions. I saw a question on YouTube. Someone was asking the difference between control, functions, and formulas. I don't know what he meant by controls, but functions and formulas are the differences are questions that you get a lot. So it's very simple. So let's see. Based on what we have here, it says that functions are predefined formulas in Excel. So functions are just like they store formulas. Okay. So there are some common things that everyone knows that this is the logic behind it. One of them is like adding numbers together. Okay. So if I know that I need to add 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I can create a formula. I can create a function. Okay, that once it just taking those numbers, it knows that what it needs to do is add. So it means that a function, inside of a function, we have formulas working. Do you get the idea now? Okay. So can you see your screen? You can't see my screen? Please, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, you can see the slide, right? Functions.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
see it.
All right. So, okay, so functions are predefined formulas in Excel. So they contain Excel. So the point of functions are to eliminate laborious manual entry of formulas. You know, one that I told you earlier is that it's just about improving the work you do. You want to be more efficient. You want to be more efficient. So functions came just to help us. Even formulas were good, but functions came to help us even work better with them. And in Excel, I think we have more than 400 functions, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of them. But to be honest with you, the ones that you would use day to day, you know, as a typical data analyst are just, you know, somewhere around there. So you don't say, oh, 450, I have to put 450 on my, no. Even me, I don't think I know up to maybe 25 of them, you know. And if at all, at any point I need any other formula that I don't know, Google is my friend. So far I know what I need to do, I go online and Google it and say, okay, I want to do something like this, right? The internet is really huge that you have a lot of people who have done what you want to do. So you will definitely find. So again, being able to find solutions on the internet is a skill that is required in this field, not just analytics, IT generally. If you want to really excel, whether as a programmer, whatever you want to be in IT, being able to solve the internet. There are some questions that when I see them, I'm just surprised that people ask this question, because you can just go online and just Google it and find the answer. So please, one of the things I want us to also learn in this camp is being able to troubleshoot issues. Whenever you have issues, let Google always be the first thing, even before you ask sometimes in the class. Let Google answer for you. Then when you don't find it, you can try to ask. This is a way to learn, because you really learn a lot of things doing that. Okay. So again, there are a lot of functions in Excel. We cannot learn everything. Even if I teach it, you cannot know everything. But we will teach the basic ones that you will need day to day with your work. And then they will act like a build-up to know other ones. So anytime you need to use any other one, you know how to use it and what to do with it. Okay. So one of them is, in fact, the most popular, I would say, is sum. Okay. So sum, you already know this. So it's used to add values together for multiple cells or range. Okay. So we also have counts and average and so on. So let's just see how some of this work, and then probably that's where we're going to stop for today. Okay, so I'm going to take the first one, sum. So I would have loved us to create an entirely new data, but don't worry, I promise by tomorrow you will get data now. So today's we did entering cell values and data, so that's why I purposely did not bring any data for us. So I wanted us to do manual entry ourselves. Well, from tomorrow there will be a data set that we'll be working on just to help us. But today we'll just try to start the formulas here, the functions here, and see how we can go. So let's say, for instance, even though it doesn't make sense, we want to add all of the weights together. I know it doesn't make sense, but just pardon me. So we want to add all of the weight together. So one thing we can do is, let me bring it here. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Let me increase it a bit. Now, okay, let me show you one thing. So you can see that the more I keep scrolling down, I can't really know what is what. So the moment I scroll down here, I don't know what I'm dealing with. If it's like weight, I don't know which one is weight. I don't know which one is real weight. So one way of solving that is use what we call, what's the name of this guy again? free spin. Okay, this is also another question you might find in interviews. So look at what I'm saying. When I scroll down now, I don't know what each of these values represent. I don't know the colon. So what I want to do is to freeze this guy here, so that anytime I scroll down, I will still be seeing the title, and I can know that, oh, this one is height, this one is this. So watch what I want to do. So you have to go to click on this row now that you want to lock, freeze, and then go to view, and then you see freeze pane. Okay, so under freeze pane, you have a lot of options. So you have freeze pane. You can choose this one, and it's going to freeze all these guys that you have selected. And the other option is just to use it because they know that more often than not, what you want to freeze is the top row. So there's already an option for that. So you can freeze top row, or you can freeze first column. So which is this one. So let me show you how it works. So for this top row, if I click on it, you see that once I scroll down, I'm still seeing the first row, which represent the headers. Can you see? So now I know that this I'm still talking about height. You get the idea now, right? So same thing if I'm like scrolling to the right, let's say we have a lot of data, and I want to know which index I'm dealing with. So that's where the other option comes, which is freeze first column. So it's going to freeze this column so that no matter how far I go, I'm still going to be seeing that first column. And I can know that, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Do you get the use case now? Okay. So that one the second one does not make sense. So I'm going to undo it. And then how do I undo now? Is there unfreeze? Okay, there is unfreeze pane. So I can unfreeze everything and then probably freeze top row again. So I can just keep only the top row. So I just wanted you to know that. So now let's say I want to add this weight together, even though it doesn't make sense, like I said. So I can choose to do, so let me call it total weight. Again, it doesn't make sense logically, but we are just practicing. So I'm going to do this so that the weight, the size can be there. You already know this by now. So I'm going to do this plus this plus this plus this plus this. I'm even tired already by doing all of these things, right? So plus, but let me just try to complete it. Plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this. So now this is formula. You can see, imagine it, just 12, I'm even, my hands are already paining me. So what if it's like a lot? You don't want to do that. So instead of doing this formula like this, that's where, now you can see because the formula is long, sometimes it might not be convenient working with your formulas here. So this is also another alternative. So you can use this, it's called the formula bar. So when you have a lot of formulas, this place is better to work with. So you can use this one or this one, anyone interchangeably. So sometimes when you have a lot, I prefer to use this one, but let me just still maintain this one for now. So now you see that we have a lot of stuff to add, and it doesn't really make sense because it's too long and there's a formula, there is a function that can help us to do this. So that's where the sum function comes in, okay? So let me delete this. And then instead of doing all of that, I can apply the function sum. So one interesting thing about Excel is anytime you want to use a function, you can find the description of that function. So for instance, this is sum. It tells you that it adds all the number in a range of cells. Now you know what a range is, right? So that means when you select multiple, it adds all the numbers together. And then we have a lot of other things like sum product and all of that. So we are not talking about those ones for now. So let's just remain with sum. So the next thing is you want to press open bracket, okay? Or you can use your tab, anyone works. So once you do that, you can see what your cell, your function is asking for. So it's asking for number 1, number 2. So it's asking for more than one numbers, right? That you can input. So one way is to say this, comma, this, comma, this, comma, this, comma, this. So you can see the moment it's increasing to number 6, number 7, just take note of that. So I'm selecting all the numbers, comma is the separation. And then I click on enter. I think I missed one number here. So this is D. Okay, I did not start with D1. Okay, this here, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, D8, D9, D10. Why is it not different from what we got before? Or is it the same? Okay, let me just leave it like that. Maybe I made a mistake in the first one. I don't know. So now we have, this is the total weight. Now, as sweet as this looks, it's better than the other one when I was doing plus, but it still doesn't, I mean, you can improve it. So because this formula actually works with range, so I'm just going to delete this again. And then I'm going to use range instead of selecting manually. So of course, I told you from the beginning that range is a what? Is a group of cells. So instead of me selecting all these things one by one, I can select them as a range like this. Okay. So this is how a range is referenced in Excel. The first value, colon, the last value. So anytime you see anything like this, you know that this is a range. So it means that we are going from D2, which is the first value, to D13, which is the last value, including everything that is inside. So D3, D4, D5 to D12, everything inclusive. So this is how the reference for range is. So you know how a reference for cell is, now you know how a reference for range is. So when I click on enter, you can see that I got the same value. Now, if I'm to ask you which one would you rather use among the three options, you can answer for yourself. Okay. So, so that's that. So that's like adding everything together. The second one is let's look at, we want to calculate number of months, for instance, or number of records. Let me call it number of records. Okay. Of course, the number of records will be equal to the number of months, okay, which I believe now should be 12. But how do we compute that without telling it that 12? Because that would be partial to just say 12. So we can actually do what we call count, because what we want to do is to count the number of months, right? So I want to count how many records we took. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, right? So will I be counting all the time like that? No. So you can actually use the count function. Okay, so that's also another function that I want to show you. So you can see the description is there. It counts the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. We'll talk more about count, the three types of count, count A, count blocks, and all of that tomorrow. But I just want to prepare your mind for what we're going to do, which is functions. We'll do quite a number of functions tomorrow and just play around them. So if you have time to learn, to check functions on the W3 schools that I posted, I recommend you check it just to familiarize yourself with it. And then we are going to have a different data set tomorrow that we're going to be working with, and then it's going to be more interesting. So count of all the months. So if I just select all the months, trust me, I don't want to select one by one again. You know that by now. So I'm going to select the range instead, and I click on enter. Now I have 0. So the issue here is issue with counting the types of count. So let me leave you curious, but I'm going to change this to count A, and then we can see that the answer came out the way it is. So why is it count? Why is count not working? Why is counting not working? All of these things you are going to find out tomorrow when we join the class. So with that, I think we have come to the end of today's session. It's 2 minutes to our close time. So we won't be taking any question, as I believe that we had time for question earlier. But if you have any question, please reach out on the Discord group. On your group, just reach out. The mentors will answer, or the class support, or I am also going to answer. So tomorrow we'll meet again by the same time, 8 p.m. Central European time. I hope to see you guys. We'll be doing a lot, and it's really going to be fun. And I hope you have some time to practice what we learned today for those that are entirely new to this whole thing. So with that, thank you and enjoy the rest of your night. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.